Lee's Logbook.
Hello and welcome to the next chapter of Lee's Logbook. I'm Lee and this is a different type of video. I was going to be a top 10, but then in the middle of making my top 10 list, I was like, wait, instead of doing this top 10, why don't I just list my favorite Pokemon by type? So I was going to do my top 10 favorite Pokemon, but instead of that, I decided every type to have a favorite. So pretty much I am listing my favorite Pokemon by type. Ground rules. I decided that Legendary should have their own list. So they will have their own list. And then I also, with the exception of one particular type, I wanted them all to have the said type as their primary typing. Their secondary typing didn't matter. It could be whatever. But their primary typing had to be the type in question. So, with that being the case, the only type that is exempt from that is flying type. The reason why flying type is exempt is because there are three, count them, three primary flying types. One of them is a legendary, meaning they couldn't be on this list, and the other two are in the same evolutionary chain. So I decided that for flying type, flying could be the secondary typing and still work out. Alright, enough dilly-dally. Let's get to the list. Here they are in no particular order. My favorite Pokemon by type. Alright, so first up, let's start with normal type. My favorite normal type Pokemon. This is probably not going to come that much of a surprise to you who have watched the channel for a little bit. Eevee. Eevee is easily my favorite normal type Pokemon. I don't think that there is a normal type Pokemon that I love more than Eevee. I might be a little biased because Eevee evolves into my favorite Pokemon of all time, but it's also cute and adorable, and I wish that I could have one in real life and take care of it, and I would love it, and it's so cute. I think another thing that makes Eevee really cool is just the amount of types that it can evolve into. Sure, I have my biases as to which I evolve it into, but having that choice I think is really cool. It makes Eevee special, and I like Eevee being special. Playing Let's Go Eevee and going through Kanto again with Eevee just sort of reaffirmed my love for this Pokemon. Simple enough, I'm moving on. Fire types. Charizard. Cliche, I know, it's super cliche, but listen, growing up with the anime and the card game and the red and blue versions, and it was the war between Blastoise and Charizard, but like Charizard, Ash's Charizard was so cool in the anime that you just wanted one. It's a really awesome looking beast who was powerful, and I still remember the episode where Charmeleon evolved into a Charizard. It was awesome. It was awesome. And that card, oh man, the first set of Pokemon cards, that Charizard card was so sought after and everyone wanted it. It was hard. It was hard as a kid not to get swept up into Zard fever, okay? I'm sorry, I'm basic when it comes to fire types. I love this thing. It's a giant flying lizard that breathes fire. There are valid criticisms of this Pokemon. Some people say it's overrated. I tend to disagree. I think that Mega Evolutions only made it better. And because it's such a fan favorite, it got two of them. I don't know. Moving on. Fighting types. Fighting types was interesting. It was actually a lot harder to make this decision than I thought it was going to be. On the set out, I thought it was going to be pretty easy, but then I started looking at it, and you had the Hitmons, and I really liked the Hitmons. You had Machamp, and Machamp is awesome with his 4 arms. It's crazy. And then Mienshao from Gen 5 is definitely one of my favorite fighting types, just because of how graceful it looks. But when it came down to it, the fighting type that I had to choose as my favorite was a real gem from Gen 6, and that's Pangoro. Pangoro, just the aura that this thing exudes, and I don't mean Lucario aura, I just mean just the personality that exudes from this design really caught on with me when Gen 6 came out. Pangoro was definitely a part of my team when I played through the game originally, and I mean, just look at it. The like serious eyes, and the fact that it evolves from Pancham if you have a dark type in your party because it corrupts it. I love that whole sort of like evolution mechanic that came with this Pokemon. I honestly, Pangoro, I could just look at it. Look at him. He's so cool. All right, moving on. So many water types. There are a bunch of water types. Sure, there are a bunch of normal types too, but normal was a relatively easy choice for me. Water, there are tons of cool water Pokemon out there. I mean, how do you not look at something like Gyarados and say, wow, that thing's cool? Or, I mean, Blastoise even. I know, again, I'm naming Gen 1 Pokemon. But listen. I grew up with Gen 1. I also grew up with Gen 2, which is my favorite generation, so it won't come as a surprise to any of you that the water Pokemon I chose just so happens to be from it. It's this beast. It is this beautiful, beautiful water dragon type Kingdra. I honestly feel like Kingdra is overlooked a lot of the time. I love this thing. Water dragon is an awesome, awesome typing to have. And honestly, I really liked the look of it. Seadra, there was always a lot going on with Seadra for me, because it went from Horsey, which is this really cute little seahorse, and then it became Seadra and everything just gets spiky. Everything's spiky, and I'm like, oh, okay, but what happened to like, you know, just the smoothness of it, just the gracefulness of it, and then Kingdra happened, and Kingdra's just like, look at me. I make whirlpools by yawning. I'm so dope. Love me. And little me was like, yeah, I want that. When I fought Claire's, I was like, I want that one. That one's really cool. And so since then, Kingdra has always really just had a special place in my heart when it comes to water types. I love this thing. And I feel like it's overlooked. I feel like she's underappreciated for her beauty. So she's on this list as my favorite. Moving on. Next up is flying types. I didn't really have to think about this one too hard. Skarmory. I love Skarmory. This metallic bird is just, it's a bird made of metal, and it's awesome. And I love it. And it honestly just got better and better. Its typing is great. It is a tanky monster. It can set up spikes. It can get rid of stuff with defog. There's a bunch of things that this Pokemon can do. It's a bird made of metal. It's awesome. I love it. It's so cool. I'm sorry. I'm gonna be saying that a lot because honestly, most of the choices that I made just because they're really cool to me. I really like their designs. Most of this is just gonna be about designs. I first saw Skarmory when I played Pokemon Stadium 2 for the Nintendo 64. There's a fun fact for you. I didn't actually ever catch this thing in Gold, Silver, or Crystal. I didn't even run into it in Gold, Silver, or Crystal. Again, it wasn't until Pokemon Stadium 2 that I saw this thing, but when I saw it, I was like, this thing's awesome! Little me really liked it. And bigger me loves it too. It's tanky and amazing. It just gets better with time. It's tough to kill, it's dependable, it gets the job that you need it to get done. That's just enough said. Moving on. Okay. If I had to choose the Pokemon that is the most underappreciated on this list, it'd probably be my grass type choice, Sceptile. I love this Pokemon. Trico was the only grass type starter that I outright chose in the beginning of the game. Trico, I really liked reptiles at the time, and I really liked lizards at the time, and I saw this tree gecko, and I was like, that one. And then it evolved into Sceptile. Sold. Absolutely sold on this king of the forest. Look at it. Look at it. Look at that face. Does that face look like it gives one single fuck? Speaking of kings, we come to poison type. So poison type, I ended up going back and forth, but in the end, I had to settle. I had to. It's Nidoking, guys. It's Nidoking, guys. It's Nidoking. It's just Nidoking. This thing looks powerful, is powerful, and the Pokédex loves to make this thing seem monstrous. Breaking telephone poles with its tail, creating earthquakes with its tail, wrapping someone up in its tail and crushing their spine. Oh, it should be a steel type, it's so metal. And I love it. Moving on. Electric type. I didn't actually realize how hard electric type was going to be either. When I got to electric type, I was like, yeah, I'll be able to look through this list and easily choose my favorite. And then 3 really started competing with one another. There was Luxray, Manectric, and Jolteon. And I realized that having to pick between these 3 was gonna suck, because I really like them all. But I think if I had to give it to one of them, I'd probably give it to Luxray. Although I really do wish that Luxray was an electric dark type. It just makes so much sense. The design with the black fur, it's an electric type lion. It's so cool. I also wish it was a bit faster. But playing through Gen 4 initially and finding a Shinx and having the Shinx evolve into Luxio and then having that Luxio evolve into Luxray just, it's an electric, it's a lightning lion, and I love it. It's so cool. I know I've said that so many times, but just, I can't help it. It's just cool. It's simple, right? There's not a whole lot going on, but it just is awesome. Grand. But I love Jolteon and Manectric too. It was very hard. This was a very hard choice. But Luxray takes it. Moving on. Ground types. Ground types ended up being interesting too. It wasn't necessarily like a super difficult choice, but it was an interesting choice nonetheless. In the end, I settled on going with Gliscor. Because I love Gliscor. I really disliked Gligar. In Gen 2, Gligar was dumb to me. I don't know, I never really liked Gligar's design, but then Gen 4 came out and gave this as an evolution, and yeah, Gliscor is just really cool. It's like this vampire flying scorpion thing. Again, you know, a pretty simple design. There's not a whole lot going on. I tend to realize that I like simple designs that get the point across, that really sort of exude what it's supposed to be. And this thing is supposed to be some kind of vampire scorpion, and it looks like some kind of vampire scorpion. It does its job correctly. But yeah, ground flying, really interesting. Really, really interesting Pokemon. Like it. Moving on. So we've come to Psychic type. If you have been on the channel for a while, you will absolutely know the answer to this question. If this is your first video that you're watching of me. So, earlier in the video I said that my favorite Pokemon was an evolution of Eevee. Well, now that I'm talking about it during the Psychic type portion of this video, you must have already guessed that, yeah, my favorite Psychic type Pokemon is Espeon. From seeing Espeon in Gen 2 as a kid, this was the Pokemon that I envisioned like my Pikachu. Like Ash to his Pikachu was me to my Espeon. I loved the look of this thing. It was awesome. the forked tail, the red gem, the calm eyes and demeanor. I wanted to have one around my shoulder just to watch, just to go through our adventure together. I've always loved this Pokemon, and it has stood the test of time to be truly my favorite Pokemon to exist. I love this little thing. Just look at her. She's so cute. I want to have her on my shoulder. Probably, she'll probably like wrap around, honestly. Although I have this little plush that could fit on my shoulder, kind of. See, look, there it is! Ah! I'm getting off topic. Moving on. Rock type. Tyranitar. I don't think there is a cooler rock type that exists for me. Tyranitar is a Godzilla. It's a rock type Godzilla. It's amazing. Look at the power that this design shows. You fear this monster, and this monster fears nothing. It's awesome. Love it. So cool. But yeah, honestly, from a kid till now, T-Tar, it's super solid Pokemon too. Got a Mega Evolution. I prefer the original to the Mega Evolution. I think the Mega Evolution sort of complicated it up a little bit. And again, the spikiness and stuff. We didn't need that. This design, perfection. And moving on. Ice type. Okay. Ice type ended up being really interesting because Mamoswine has always been one of my favorite ice type Pokemon. But when it came down to it, while I was looking through the list, while I was seeing all of the ice type Pokemon, I realized that there is one ice type that I might like a little bit more than the Mamoswine family. And it's an Alolan variant, no less. Alolan Ninetales. Actually, as I chose Alolan Ninetales, I realized that I think I like Alolan Ninetales more than normal Ninetales, because it reminds me of shiny normal Ninetales, which is one of the coolest Ninetales that exists. But yeah, I love this thing. It took Ninetales, which is a beautifully graceful beast, and just decided to make it even more mysterious. Also, its Pokedex entry is amazing, and I can relate. Its Pokedex entry in Ultra Sun says that the reason why it helps people down the mountain is because it wants them to hurry up and leave. She's perfect. Moving on. Bug type. Alright, so bug type ended up being a super, super easy choice. Scizor. Just Scizor. Ever since I saw Scizor, I loved Scizor. Fun fact, my favorite color is red. What color is this thing? Red. Other fun fact, Bug Steel only has one weakness and is amazing. And also, if I had to have any other reason to love Scizor, if you've been watching my Point Lock recently, you might have seen another reason for me to love this Pokemon even more than I already did. It's a fighter, it's a companion, it's amazing. It's Scizor. Hands down, my favorite bug-type Pokemon. Moving on. Alright, next up on this list is my favorite pseudo-legendary Pokemon. Pseudo-legendary, meaning it's not a legendary, it's just a pseudo-legendary. It's like, Dragonite, or Metagross, or Tyranitar, or Garchomp. my favorite dragon-type Pokemon is Garchomp. This land shark. Ever since Gen 4 came out, and I was playing through Gen 4, Garchomp just... amazing. Amazing. It's such a cool looking... It's such a cool idea to make like a land shark that is also a dragon type and ground type. Dragon ground is actually a really interesting typing. Offensively, defensively, it has some problems with ice, but that's okay. But yeah, I've always just really loved Garchomp, and I don't think I'm alone in that. I think a lot of people really liked this Pokemon. Gen 4 had some really interesting designs. They had some weird ones, but then they had some really cool ones too. And Garchomp is definitely one of those. I love this thing. It's awesome. It's my favorite dragon type by a pretty good margin. Moving on. So now we come to Ghost type. I don't believe my Ghost type choice is an incredibly popular choice. I know some people actually really dislike its design, but Chandelure has always just had this allure to me. Yes, it's a chandelier. Yes, it is a living chandelier with fire. Yeah, it is that. But it's also like ghost fire, and it's like a haunted chandelier, and its design is amazing, and I love it. When I was playing through Gen 5, and I found a Litwick was cool, Lampent was cooler, Chandelure was the coolest. I really enjoy this Pokemon. Ghost Fire is a really interesting typing, which, again, made me like it even more. I know that sometimes having inanimate objects be Pokemon is weird, and some might even look down upon it, but I think it really works here. And I will stand by that statement forever. Chandelure works and is my favorite ghost type. Dark type Pokemon. Dark type Pokemon ended up being another hard choice. But in the end, I actually surprisingly went with a not fully evolved Pokemon. I really like fully evolved Pokemon. Actually, all of the Pokemon on this list, except for Eevee and this Pokemon, are fully evolved. But the one that I chose is Zorua. I actually prefer Zorua's design to Zoroark. Zoroark, it just looks a bit odd to me. I mean, not that I dislike Zoroark's design, but I prefer Zorua's, and I kind of wish that Zoroark might have also been on all fours and sort of went along with this same type of design, because Zorua's design is awesome and Shiny Zorua is great. And I really have always loved the look of this Pokemon. It's another Pokemon that I could definitely just like see having and taking care of and not necessarily wanting to evolve, but I probably would. It's in me. I don't think I could ever have a Pokemon and not want to fully evolve it. But yeah, I prefer Zorua's design to Zoroark's. It was sort of a tough choice to make, but in the end, Zorua took it, and I really need to get a Zorua plushie. I really do. That's off-topic thought, but I do need to do that. Moving on. Oh, now we come to one of my favorite types, if not my favorite type, and that is Steel types. Steel types are awesome. They are the defensive monsters that can also mount some pretty interesting offense. My favorite Steel type is Metagross. Honestly, this giant four-limbed supercomputer looks really out there and alien, but I think that's why I like it so much. It's just so not anything in the real world, and it just gives it this quality of like, yeah, this is technology that the world can't handle, because it looks like nothing the real world has ever had, and so because of that, you get this sense of otherworldly intelligence, and I think that really works into Metagross's favor. Plus, it's super strong, super awesome, and a pseudo-legendary that can really pack a punch. So when it came down to it, this was a pretty easy choice. Metagross is my favorite steel type, other than the other steel types that are on this list, but they're not primary steel types, so we get around that whole thing. And moving on. So lastly, we have the newest type to join the gang, fairy type. This choice ended up being interesting because I was looking through a lot of the primary fairy types that exist, and there are some secondary fairy types that I prefer more of the fairy type, but not their primary typings. Mimikyu, I'm sorry. If I could put you here, I would, but you're a secondary fairy type, and you didn't beat out Chandelure for the ghosts. So, Mimikyu is an honorable mention as far as fairy types are concerned. But I think if I had to go with primary fairy types, the one that I would choose is most likely Sylveon. Sylveon was the introduction to fairy types for me, and I think a lot of others. And I think its design works. It works to kind of get across what the feel of fairy types were. The ribbons, the cutesy nature, but then those eyes hiding the secret fact that dragons should be so afraid of this thing and all of its capabilities. But yeah, I think it works well to show the fairy type to the world. It embodies the type well enough to where I could say, as far as primary fairy types are concerned, it is my favorite. And that is it. That's my list. Simply put, those are the 18 Pokemon that are my favorite by primary typing alone, except for flying type, which got a bye. Yeah. Do we have some favorite Pokemon in common? Do we not have favorite Pokemon in common? Let me know. Let the dialogue commence. I would love to hear your lists, your thoughts, and maybe your stories of why these particular Pokemon that you chose as your favorites mean so much to you. And that will be that. So, until next time, I'll see you.